Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another YouTube video, and today we're switching it up and we're doing NBA hot cake takes, whatever you want to call it. And we got two new guests here. We got Vic and Jesus. So without further ado, we're just going to jump right into it. So I'm going to start off with you, Garrett. The first question is, do the Lakers have what it takes to make it out of the first round?
Have what it takes? Yes. They have three All-Stars. Anthony Davis, LeBron, Russell Westbrook. They do have what it takes. They do have what it takes to get out of the first round, but it's really about execution and working on their chemistry, and yeah, that's pretty much all I have. I think it's just a simple answer. I didn't need to pull stats on my butt or anything, but I just think that they do have the potential to get out of the first round just because they won a championship, you know, 2 years ago. Even though they lost some key players like Alex Caruso, they got Russell Westbrook, which is, a Hall of Famer. But it's really about that team chemistry. They gotta build before the playoffs to get out of the first round.
Gotcha. All right, Jesus, do the Lakers have what it takes to make it out of the first round?
I'm gonna say yes, but it's like you're walking on like stairs, like really old stairs, but it's creaking and everything. You know, that's how I feel about the Lakers right now. Like obviously they have the potential to get out of the first round to go to the Western Conference Finals as far as they want because they have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, great duo. Um, but in all fairness, do I think that they will? Maybe. Depending on who they match up on the first round, because a lot of their issues come from identity and also just these weird like lineups that still aren't necessarily working right now. Like obviously we're like 30 games in, right? And the Lakers are trying to make the whole LeBron, AD, and Westbrook kind of thing, trying to make it work. And usually when LeBron James is there, trying to facilitate everything, and Westbrook is being more used as like a slasher and that kind of like that point forward, always pushing the pace and everything like that. They're on top. They're over 500 with those games being played. But a lot of it also falls in the identity because when they won the championship,
That's an interesting stat.
2020, they were a force to be reckoned with defensively. They were top five. Their offense was always there because they had LeBron James and Anthony Davis, but their defense is always what made their name because they had versatility and they had a lot of size.
I like
They
that.
don't have that with this roster at the moment, right? And they could if AD would want to play the five more, but he's so subjective to not getting hurt. And it's just this back and forth of what can we pride ourselves in doing to to affect the other team, and then also just trying to get more reps in with Westbrook, LeBron, and AD. So, in all, to kind of put a bow on everything, um, I think they can get out the first round, but depending on their matchup, it's like less likely.
All right, that was a good take. I like that one. That you made a lot of good points. With in relation to the year they won the championship and stuff. But moving on, Victor, do the Lakers have what it takes to make it out of the first round?
Oh.
Yeah, of course. Honestly, to me, just because the hardest thing about the West standings is just the fact that there's so many good teams that the Lakers could probably lose to, but it's really hard to doubt against LeBron being at full force and AD when he wants to try. And kind of annoys me as a fan just seeing AD just kind of coast through the games, always pulling up for middies when he's guarded by a 5 foot Compazzo. And it's very frustrating when you watch the Lakers because you watch their defense and they just let people by them, and it's a very different team than it was 2 years ago when they won the championship in the bubble. And honestly, for the Lakers, they just have to make sure they keep winning enough games, even though they're treading in the right way with being 6-4 in their last 10 games. And the rest of their schedule should be somewhat easy until they start going into February All-Star break, where they have a lot of tough games. So they just got to make sure they win the games they need to win, like the last two with OKC and the Magic, and then make sure they're around the 4th or 5th seed, because I don't personally believe they'll pass the Warriors, Phoenix, or Utah. And even though we all like Memphis, Chris, your favorite team is the Clippers, and Jesus' favorite team is the Nuggets, I don't see them winning as many games as they're probably going to be up. So I do believe the Lakers will be 4th or 5th seed. They will face a team that's either at the same level or inferior to them. and then yeah, they'll have an easier ticket to get into that second round. And then also, it's really hard to doubt against LeBron, even though their whole three-star lineup isn't great, and they're all under contract with basically 35 million up. So they really do need a trade for this roster just to get things shaking up. But yes, they will make it past the first round.
All right, Big. Those are also very good points. I like how you brought up, it's hard to bet against LeBron because it's the same thing. You can say the same thing with Tom Brady. You want to bet against him, but sometimes you just can't. Anyways, moving on to Don. Do the Lakers have what it takes to make it out of the first round?
The Lakers do have what it takes to get out of the first round. Victor kind of took some of my points, but it's okay. Like, they're 6-4 in their last 10 games, and obviously they have their big three, and it's really hard to doubt against LeBron. And when you look at LeBron's record carrying the teams from past years, he's only not made it out of the first round once in his career, and that was last year against the Suns. But looking at the roster, without LeBron on the court, they're 5-7. The point differential is 12 to 15 points without him. So LeBron just got back, and they're gonna start winning some ball games. And I feel like with all the other teams ahead of them, you got Memphis, which Ja Morant injuries are gonna play another role too. So Memphis, they have Ja Morant injured. Clippers, they got Paul George out right now. I don't know how long he's gonna be out, Chris. You can remind me real fast.
I have no idea.
But so that's going to hurt them a little bit. So I feel like with the Lakers getting their players back, they'll rise up in the ranks. And they're going to be facing, like Victor said, they're going to be facing those 4, 5, and 6 teams, somewhere around there. I don't think they'll be the 8th seed. I don't think they'll be the 8th seed to face the Warriors. That's the only way. I do not see them moving past the first round. But they just have everything they need to get out of the first round with all the pieces they have.
All right. Good take, Donnie. All right, moving on to John, my boy. Do the Lakers have what it takes to make it out of the first round?
Yes. And what I mean by that is if they get a 4 or a 5 seed. Because if they get a 6th or 8th seed, you know what? I'll even throw a 6 in there. If they get a 7 or 8 seed, I don't see them getting past the first round. Really, by the end of the season, I think they'll look a lot better than what they look now. But I don't know how long that's going to take. It's kind of hard. It was a good question, which is why it was kind of hard to decide. But yeah, sometimes I'll turn on a Lakers game and it just looks rough. It looks rough. And like Vic said, there needs to be a trade. I think Vic was the one who said that. There needs to be a trade somewhere. They made a lot of moves in the offseason that really hurt the roster more than helped it, in my opinion. Westbrook was supposed to be this huge, oh, you got a big three, you're supposed to compete for a championship, and now we're talking about whether they can get out of the first round. It's kind of disappointing, but yeah.
All right. Also, good takes there. So now myself, I think they have what it takes to make it out of the first round. Will they make it out of the first round? I'm going to say no. At 1, 2, and 3, you have Golden State, Phoenix, and Utah. And I'm going to leave Memphis at 4. Even though I don't want to, I'm going to leave Memphis at 4. They have been balling lately. They have won 8 out of their last 9. They beat Dallas. They beat Miami. Their only loss coming to Dallas again, which is, a split when you play a team twice. They beat LA, the Lakers. They beat Houston and then Philly. And a couple of those games are also without Ja Morant. So I don't know what they've been doing. I don't know how they've been trending in the right direction. But I'm going to say that, Memphis stays at 4. And then with MPJ being injured, I'm going to keep the Clippers at 5. I'm going to keep the Lakers at 6. And then I'm going to have the Nuggets jump to 7. So in this case, right now, the Clippers have been winning games. They even beat the Lakers I think a week ago or something like that. And Paul George was 0 for 7 from 3, 7 for 20 from, the field. He only scored 19 points. Our leading scorer was Marcus Morris Sr. And we still beat them by 4. So I think in a 7-game series, if Kawhi comes back, we can beat the Lakers in the first round. So as of right now, do the Lakers have what it takes to make it out of the first round? Yes. But will they? My final answer is no. So if there's anything else you guys want to add, now that we've all said our takes, we can now just go back and forth throughout discussion. And if there's anything y'all want to add.
Yeah.
Join the Join the AD slander, Victor.
Of course. I want to
Get him.
I want to normalize basically keeping stars accountable, and AD has not been accountable whatsoever. It's just one of those things that kind of hurts to see because he's such a good player, and I was one of the biggest people that I was saying he should not have made the top 75 players.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think anyone agrees with
That's
that.
what I was about to say. I was about to say that's the
I
top
agree.
75 player Anthony Davis to you.
Yeah, he should not have made it. It should have been Dwight or
Yeah.
Tracy or
Just
just
a D12.
a good amount of other players other than Anthony Davis. That's a
Facts.
story for another day. And it's just weird. Their whole roster is just weird. They went to get veterans because they didn't have any money, so they went for veteran minimals. Like Carmelo, great signing. He's shooting great at 40% for three. Malik Monk, he's coming out of nowhere. That's great. Avery Bradley's still playing great defense on point guards. And then you have those weird signings right in the bottom, like DeAndre Jordan playing minutes a game, and he did absolutely. It's just really weird. I do believe they're gonna trade Taylor Horton-Tucker because he's the only person that has upside and a sizable contract around that. While most people in the NBA are making 5 to 15 million, so it'll be easier for the money to match. So most likely we'll make a trade, and just to point out as well, their defense is at 26 in the league, like Asu said. There has never been a championship team that has been less than top 10 for defense.
Jeez, I did not know that. That's crazy. That's a good stat.
And I will add onto that Taylor Horton-Tucker about like the trade thing. He's being targeted by a bunch of teams.
7
According-
right now.
So I could definitely see him getting traded just because like what Vic said, he's got upside because he is young and he showed promise. Like I think there's a couple games like before LeBron came back, he was averaging a little more because obviously his usage rate is going to go up. But now he's like I don't know. He's coming off the bench, I would assume. So like he's not getting the touches that he needs to grow. So
I think they started THG the last 2 games.
do they?
Yeah, it's just this game he played well, while the last 2 Ron came back, he hasn't played that great.
I just want to add one more thing. Like, if you look at their roster, I mean, how many Hall of Famers do they have on this roster? You got
A
Rondo.
lot.
You could argue DeAndre Jordan, Dwight Howard, Carmelo, Russell Westbrook. You could argue Anthony Davis, and then LeBron. I mean, that's what, 6, 7, Hall
And
of Famers.
Horton-Tucker, so that's 8.
There you go. I forgot. My bad. But I mean, in that bubble championship, Rondo was that piece that elevated their offense. When he was on the court, coming down, distributing the ball, making good passes. I mean, they were quite literally almost unstoppable. And now he's averaging 14 minutes, a game. I feel like that has to be upped. Carmelo averages 28 minutes per game. With how good his defense is, I would consider, dropping that. But they have Malik Monk, like you said, he's only averaging just south of 10 points. Melo's your fourth leading scorer on this team. And then Dwight Howard isn't really getting utilized. DeAndre Jordan isn't really getting utilized. So, I mean, AD, as much as, there is slander about him and how he's not, it sounds like or looks like he's not trying as much, which I agree. He's still averaging 24 points per game. He's still doing what he needs to do. LeBron's averaging 26. But at the same time, with LeBron, like you guys said, in the first round, he's only lost once, and that was last year.
14-1. Yeah,
He lost last year against the Suns. But
Which
now
was
it's
the finals.
exactly, and now it's like LeBron can be beaten in the first round, which is, I don't know. I just don't think, I think I'm the only one that feels like, I mean, John also made a point. I think John was like kind of on the same side of the court as me, as like they can make it out of the first round, but will they? I don't think they will, based on matchups. So
Seeding.
yeah.
I said like the Warriors would be like their biggest challenge because Clay's coming back too, and then the second seed, the Suns, are doing really good too, and they beat them last year, obviously. So like I feel like those 2 teams can easily beat them.
That boy Clay
Yeah.
on a mission.
But
Yeah.
like I
Oh
said,
my
I don't think
God.
the Lakers will fall that far down.
Yeah.
Also, I mean,
Oh, go ahead.
no, please be my guest.
Okay, I was just gonna say the lowest I see the Lakers falling is 7. To be honest, that's the absolute lowest I see them falling. And then at that point, they match up with, if the standings stay, the Grizzlies. And I see them beating the Grizzlies. I mean, you never know, but it just depends if they show up. Jesus?
So do you see the Lakers being in the play-in then?
I guess so. I mean, they were in the play-in last year.
Play-in.
So,
That's true.
and then
Also,
they barely lost to barely beat the Warriors. So, all right. So let's move on to the next question. So, I'm gonna go first. I will say the question, obviously. What's the ceiling for the Chicago Bulls? So, in my opinion, if things play out right for them, meaning if other teams in the East are faced with injuries, I think the ceiling for this team is an NBA championship. Now, at first, it may seem, a little crazy, but like the Brooklyn Nets, so they've been faced with injuries in the past. So if they face a couple of injuries, I could definitely see the Bulls beating them in 7. You could also take the Boston Celtics. I could see the Bulls beating them in 7. And then the Milwaukee Bucks, Chris Middleton just hyperextended his knee, so he's going to be out. Might be a little bit injury prone. So if they have no Chris Middleton, I could see the Bulls beating them in 7 as well. So the ceiling for this team is, in my opinion, an NBA championship. But you also got to look at their players. So I am going to be completely honest. I don't know who the Bulls coach is right now. Does anyone know? Can anyone tell me?
Billy Donovan.
Okay, there you go. Billy Donovan.
Billy Donovan.
So
Stop the slander. Stop.
as of right now, I think he's
Billy
doing.
Donovan.
As of right now, I think he's doing a great job with this team. A lot of what's it called? A lot of coaches get handed a lot of talent and don't really know how to utilize it. But I think they're doing a great job. DeMar and Zach LaVine, they're averaging 26. Vooch is 15, and then Lonzo Ball. Everyone's raving about Lonzo Ball, how good he is. But I think everyone's a Lonzo Ball fan just because we've seen how he's progressed, how his shooting has gotten better, how he's a better defender. He's only averaging just south of 13 points per game, but he is averaging 1 block per game. And if that keeps it up, he will be the first point guard in NBA history averaging a point or 1 block throughout, the whole season. So I think this team. And then also you got Alex Caruso, Derrick Jones Jr., Patrick Williams, Kobe White, he was also injured. So this whole team is on not injured reserve, but on the COVID list right now. And their next 2 games have been postponed. But the ceiling for this team, in my opinion, is an NBA championship if things work out for them. So next we will go with John. What's the ceiling for the Chicago Bulls?
In my opinion, it's conference finals exit. And I'm only saying that because if they get, it just depends on how the matchups work. But if you look at the standings, if you go 1 through 6, and then there's, I'm by Atlanta. It's a decent team still, even with all the injuries. And New York's a decent team, so they aren't even in the playoff picture yet. And that is there's a bunch of teams there, beat or lose Chicago. But I would put Chicago, at least talent-wise, I think Brooklyn would beat them, Milwaukee would beat them in a series, Miami would beat them, and Philly would beat them, in my opinion. So I don't know about anyone else, but from those 4 teams alone, I can't put them past the conference finals. I think they could beat one of those teams. I don't think they could beat 2 of those teams. And your point with Lonzo Ball is he's not scoring that much. That's because he's not the first option.
Well,
he's just not.
My point wasn't really he's not scoring too much. It's just like for instance, the media right now, and I feel like everyone in this in this party can agree Lonzo Ball is doing a great job. He's improved so much, his shooting, his maturity, his passing, his rebounds, his defensive. There's defense. I'm sure everyone can agree he's doing great. We like seeing Lonzo do good because when he first came into the league, he had that weird jump shot, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just saying he's over, like you said, he's only averaging 13 points per game. He's not scoring as much, but I feel like he's not overrated, but his usage rate could be better, but like you said, they have better players. But I wasn't trying to just pinpoint his points per game. Anyways, you can continue.
That's pretty much all I had. Yeah, Chicago Bulls. What did I say? Conference Finals exit, or did I say second round exit?
Conference.
I don't remember. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. Yeah, that's it. That's all I
All
got.
right. Good takes. All right, moving on with Donnie. What is the ceiling for the Chicago Bulls?
Well, Chris, you kind of took all those words out of my mouth. I think they are a championship team. They can make the finals. The only team I can see them losing to would be the Golden State Warriors as of right now. I mean, like I said, Clay's coming back. Steph Curry's on a roll right now, probably playing like the best basketball of his career and having a career year, about to break some records. And looking at the record from last year, the Chicago Bulls were the 11th seed last year with like a, let me see, I had it up. They were 31 and 41 last year. And already this year they have 17 wins, which is already halfway. And we're only 27 games into the year. And looking at the other teams, like Chris said, I can see him beating the Celtics. I can see him beating the Bucks. Injury or two away from the Nets. And yeah, Chris, you literally took everything I had to say. I think they're going to be in the finals.
I want to add one thing. Someone in my chat just said there were two major concerns when the Bulls brought in DeRozan to form a big three with Levine and Vooch, and it was, could they create enough offensive balance to bring out their best, and would they get enough defensive stops for that to matter? And I think the answer to that is yes. Like, they did exactly that. Like, they brought in, those players, and they're balancing out. He also said you can make a case for DeMar DeRozan for MVPs, averaging 26 points per game, 5 boards and 4 assists, with 1 steal and like half a block. I mean, that's what I'm saying what my chat said, but those are great points. So
yeah, DeMar DeRozan they were thinking, I saw like on a website, I'm not sure exactly what source it was from, but they were thinking like DeMar DeRozan was like the not good signing for the Bulls, and they thought he was gonna like ruin their chemistry. Blah 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 blah. It was Bleacher Report, yes.
Of course,
So, like,
Bleacher Report.
Bleacher Report said that, but then DeMar DeRozan shut everybody up, and he's just balling right now.
yeah, like if you close your eyes and look at DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine's stats, they are nearly identical. Like nearly
Agreed.
identical.
Yeah.
So
Might even be better. Might.
yeah. All right. So moving on to my boy Vic. Victor, what is the ceiling for the Chicago Bulls? Moving on to
You're
Jesus.
muted. Yeah, my turn.
I'll
Take
be-
that, Vic.
I'll
go
be I'll be the hater here. Just because obviously, if there's injuries, then we can never predict that, especially with COVID going around or just any injury prone players at the moment. Especially if James Harden does not play up to standards. But I do believe they'll make it to the second round for sure. But they will not beat the Milwaukee Bucks, and they'll possibly beat the Brooklyn Nets. But I believe they'll be a second round team regarding that, just because even though their offense is great right now, and it can get better just because they're shooting 36% from 3 as a team, and then 51% from 2s. Vucevic hasn't been the greatest this season. He hasn't been up to Magic standards, and that's okay just because they're playing as well as they are. And then for the rest of the team, Levine and DeRozan have been amazing offensively, and they're actually doing really well defensively as well. There's points of some of the roster, though, that where if they're not making their shots, they're not hitting anything either way. For Lonzo, if you look back in their last 10 games, there's a few of them where he'll hit like 5 for 7, and then there's some where he'll just be 0 for 8 from 3. But since they're so versatile as a roster, they're able to basically deal with that and still come out with a win. And then I just want to be the one to say, but their biggest weakness is size, especially now with Patrick Williams being injured. And then we're not sure how the rest of the roster is going to be when it comes to bigger men, just because they're playing DeRozan at the 4 sometimes. And the rest of their big men isn't the greatest, especially defensively, unless you want to do Derrick Jones Jr. at the 4. But he's still 6'7", and a lot of their losses are teams who have size, like Indiana Pacers with their 2 centers that they should trade one either way. Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis, where he can literally just take 2 steps from the 3-point line to the hoop, and that's considered nothing wrong. There's the size issue is a really big thing to me. And yes, they've been getting a lot of steals with pickpocketing centers like they did with Julius Randle against the Knicks game. And they did it a lot of times with Embiid when they faced the Sixers. But just because of that, and because Vucevic isn't playing his best at the moment, they probably should make a trade for a four or something like a Vanderbilt or a really defensive, strong-minded four that will help alleviate everything defensively, and then still do some of his cutting or just energy plays as well. Because there's nothing wrong with having a highly energetic and a person who could hit a few threes for it. But that would be my opinion on the whole thing. Second round, possibly conference finals, but I do not see them being the Nets if they're fully healthy or the Bucks if they're fully healthy.
Yeah, those are good points. Especially that's why I said that's why me and Donnie said NBA championship is because if they do run into injuries, other teams in the East, I think personally they can make it there. But good points. Good points.
I
Okay.
have one thing to add with Victor's. With Vucevic, he's not playing as well. I mean, we know that, but like he had to be the number one option on the Magic. Like he was the offense, which is kind of sad, but he was the offense, and he had to average like 25, 30 a game for even the Magic to have a chance at getting a dub. But then like he can go to the Bulls and get like 12 to 15 points, and they would be just fine.
Yeah, which is great for Vucevic right now, and I
That
know
is
like
good-
he's
good for
adjusting
him.
to everything. Yeah, and he's adjusting to everything. So like this is his best chance to start winning.
Exactly. He doesn't
But
have to feel the pressure of being the number one guy at a center position.
yeah, but when it comes to championships, you need your all stars to play.
That's true.
Because without your all stars, then you're just a good team. And last time there was just a good team, they got swept by LeBron multiple times, like the Raptors, John's Hawks back in the day. So yeah,
All right. Good
Dang.
points, Vic.
Dang, throwing shots.
All right.
Knicks fan.
Jesus Pacheco. What is the
Yes,
ceiling
ma'am.
for the Chicago Bulls?
All right, so I think they can go on a finals run. Okay, so here's the thing. I was okay with being late on the Pelicans because I remember there was a lot of hype going around Zion. I'm like, they're still gonna be trash. I was late on the Atlanta Hawks when I was like, oh, they're gonna get bodied by the Sixers, right? But they made the conference finals. I will not be late on these Chicago Bulls making a finals run. I think that's their ceiling. Do I think they might get there? That's looking slimmer and slimmer because I hear Kyrie's maybe going to play away games. So let's see what happens. But two things I want to point out with this team because I believe that their ceiling is their ceiling's all the way up to the finals. But one, they just look like they're having fun. Like I tuned into a Chicago Bulls game and it's just really enjoyable. It's fast-paced action. Their sets are really creative with how they're working Levine and DeRozan, especially before they got hit with all the COVID protocol. Their horns action between those two wings, and then having a lot of cutters and a lot of good sized players, just not a lot of like tall players. Does that make sense? Right? Because their starting lineup is like no one's shorter than 6'5", right? When usually your point guards are like 6'1", 6'2", right? And they're just having like a lot of fun on the court, and you can tell by the way that they're moving the ball. The ball's always popping. Their offensive percentages are looking great. They're top 10 in offense, and I think 12 they just dropped because of a lot of the players that they're losing in defensive rating. But I think it's between 5 and like 14. They're separated by a couple points for defensive rating. And then second, I think Levine is just out of his mind. Like his true shooting percentage is 604. That's superstar numbers. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And DeMar DeRozan's not far behind with point 592. Sorry, I can't read. And they just they look so good. And this is without obviously their defensive stopper and Patrick Williams, who's going to be guarding those, who would have been guarding, the Giannis's, the KDs, all those elite wings and forwards that are in the Eastern Conference. And one last thing about the Bulls is that I think that they have one of the deepest guard rotations in the league. And that's definitely going to be very important when facing, especially Miami and Milwaukee, who are obviously just hounding defensive possessions and always or more so defensive-minded teams. So like, oh, one last thing before because I have a lot of opinions on the Chicago Bulls. I think they have a puncher's chance against the Nets, right? I think they can beat them in a 7-game series. I think they'll struggle against those bigger teams because it'll all fall on Nikola Vucevic and his defensive ability. With the was it the Bucks and then the 76ers. But other than that, I think they can go as far as to the finals.
All right. Ending it with Garrett J from NRJ. What is the ceiling for the Chicago Bulls?
Uh,
So, DeMar DeRozan, 6'6", 220. Michael Jordan, 6'6",
Shut up.
216. Oh.
I got DeRozan over Jordan.
No, I think they're ceiling. They're ceiling. Keep in mind, I was gonna say conference finals, but their ceiling, I think, is the finals, but I don't think they win it. Reason being, DeMar DeRozan is having one of his best career years, even though he's like 32, 33, however old he is. The Bulls, they're 7th in defensive rating, and so I think Vic mentioned that championship teams have really good defense. I had a lot in my head, but I was the last one, and so I was just getting bored, and I forgot what I was going to say, so bear with me. Yeah, dude, I'm so lost. I was waiting for like 15 minutes. I just lost everything.
I can
where-
chip in and just start talking for a little bit about the Bulls, and then once you remember.
Yeah.
That's why you have notes, Garrett.
So one more thing I wanted to add, like, the ceiling I think is like an NBA championship, and like I said before, like last season, this is what I'm gonna compare it to. I'm gonna compare it to the Milwaukee Bucks.
I remember it. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh my god.
Okay, sorry. I had to pull it up again. I closed it out. That's why. I closed my tab out. Sorry. Where is it?
Come on.
All right, let me just finish this thought real quick then.
Yeah,
All right.
go ahead.
So last year, honestly, the Bucks were not even my favorite at all to make it out of the East, let alone win a championship. And I think this is the same situation with the Bulls. You know, injuries played in their favor when they played the Nets, and then they went and they played against who did they play against? The Suns, and who was it? Chris Paul was battling an injury, I think, or two. And one of their shooters had gotten hurt. One of that one guy from one tall white guy, black hair. I forget his name.
Sorry.
There you go. Sorry, he also got hurt. So I think the same thing that happened to the Bucks can happen to the Bulls in the sense of injuries can play in their favor. Gary, go ahead.
Okay. Yep. So the Bulls currently sit at the 2nd seed. I'm kind of on the same boat as John. I don't think they beat the Nets, just because they're the Nets. They're 15-5 in conference play. The Bulls are 10-7 in conference play, which, if you want a championship team, you got to be a little better in the conference because you're going to be playing them in the playoffs. They're 5-5 in the last 10, which isn't the best, but could be better. But I get it. It's early in the season, and this is a brand new team. I can see the Nets beating them. I can see the Bucks beating them just because the Bucks have that experience. They even though, Chris, you said that you didn't have the Bucks as the favorite to win it all. They did win 4 straight against the Suns in the finals, which was pretty impressive because that Suns team was just insane, and they beat them.
I
They were
wouldn't
down
say
2.
insane.
Not insane, but they were obviously the best team in the Western Conference because Chris Paul, whatever team he goes to, they're going to be in the playoffs, like no question. And I feel like they should have won it all, but the Bucks were able to come back and do it. The
The
Heat,
Greek
I think.
freak.
What was that?
Garrett, just go ahead. I don't know.
The Heat, I feel like the Heat could beat the Bulls too, but I'm a little biased just because I have the Heat in the finals as my early season prediction. Yeah, so I was on the fence between conference championship and making the finals, but if we're talking ceiling, I think the Bulls could make the finals, but I don't think they're going to. I think they're gonna make the conference championship is the best bet, but lose that. So
All right. Is there anything anyone else wants to add?
The only thing that sucks for the Bulls right now is what they're going through right now, which is the COVID. And they have like half their roster not playing, and all
Well,
their good players not playing.
well,
That
they
kind of
postponed
sucks.
they postponed 2 games, so it's not like it's the end of the world. They're waiting
Yeah.
to come.
But I feel like that's why they've been losing the last couple of games they did play. So,
Yeah,
like,
they've
that
been
5-5
getting blown out
record.
because of that.
But it's
Yeah.
good that they postpone those games so they don't have a potential to lose, right? Especially with all these players out. So I guess that's like kind of like a bright side.
And to save other teams too for their players not getting COVID.
Exactly, but it's like it's not even through the players; it's like the whole organization or something like that,
True.
which is so weird. I mean, that
I did
sucks.
want to add on Vucevic. He has had his worst efficiency since his rookie season. And it's not just a volume thing, it's the fact that he's just not scoring well. Like he's getting the attempts, he's just not converting them like he used to.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Um,
true.
okay, one thing about kind of like notes.
Wait, I gotta defend my man Vooch real quick.
Oh my goodness
God.
This is
gracious!
his first time on a new team in like 10 years, so give my man some slack.
Actually, last year was his first time on a new team in like 10 years. But go ahead.
Halfway through.
But I mean, he's
Well,
not shooting
Brand-
well either.
Yeah.
Brand new season.
Hold on.
And, former All-Star.
40% from the field's actually his worst ever, including his rookie year.
That's a good worst.
Like his last year on the
Yeah.
Magic, he was averaging 24.5 on 48% shooting and then 40% from three. And then last
That's
year when he
not
was
bad.
on the Bulls, he was averaging 21 points per game. And this was before they had DeMar. On 47% from the field and 38% from three. And now 20 games in, he's averaging 15 points per game, 40% from the field, and 34% from three. So even though he is on a new team, he's just, like John said, he's just not converting his shots. Regardless of like if he's
Yeah.
on a new team or not, his 3-point percentage has dropped 6%, and his field goal percentage has dropped 8%, and his points per game has has dropped 10 points per game. So
He's washed.
no, he's not. He's not
Wait,
washed,
wait.
but like,
Give my man some time.
But, like-
give my man some
Well,
time.
yeah, that's what we're trying to say for Vucevic right now. It's just he needs time to adjust and everything, because we all know he's going to be an all-star and everything. Like all of us live in Orlando, so we've seen him at his best. It's just at this.
He's not used to not being the first option. It's
Yeah,
weird
and
for him.
and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
The biggest gripe against Vucevic right now against his efficiency is that when you watch a Bulls game, he's getting simple shot, like he's getting open hook shots, pick and pops, those once in a while drives to the rim. It's just he's not really making them. Regarding
Exactly.
that, one of the best scoring bigs in that sense.
That's true.
But defensively, he's miles improved since ever since he got the reputation. I can't speak of being a defensive center. He's a really good defensive center, positional defender, not one-on-one, of course, and that's what elevates the Bulls even more defensive. And then
Yeah.
just to go over the COVID protocols, they're missing about 10 players: Troy Brown, DeRozan, Ayo Dosunmu, Javante Green, Elise Johnson, Stanley Johnson, Derrick Jones Jr., Zach, Matt Thomas, Kobe White, and Patrick Williams. About 7 of those are rotation players.
They were
Yep.
missing enough players to where they're having to pull from their G League and from
Yeah.
other people's like practice squads and that kind of stuff. So
It kind of sucks.
I want to add one more thing. Like going back to his usage, he's still averaging the same amount of minutes per game he has pretty much his entire career. So if you want to say like his prime when he started heating up was 2018, so he was averaging 31 minutes per game there. Then 2019, 32 points per game. Then in 2020, 34 points per game. And then last year on the Bulls, 32 points per game or minutes. And then this year, 31 minutes per game. So he's still averaging the same amount of minutes. It's just on his shots, he's just not. They're not going down.
Or if we're talking efficiency, you got to compare it to how many shots he's taking compared to seasons past to now. Because you can play 31 minutes and not shoot the ball that much and be still efficient.
He's taking 3 less shots per game than last year. He's still taking 15 shots a game. It's a decent.
Yeah.
What else? I mean, I feel like a lot of it has been talked about. I guess I'd say that the Bulls are great, and also I want to shout out to Alex Caruso. This dude, apparently he's getting Defensive Player of the Year votes as on the bench. It's pretty impactful.
Averaging like 2.2 steals, 2.3 steals a game.
That's crazy. This is Drew Holiday numbers. Also,
I'm back. Anyways,
one thing kind of taking back to Chris, the Suns, Chris Paul was dealing with some sort of leg thing, but said he was fine coming in the finals. And then they were missing Saric in the finals, and then the Bucks didn't have Dante DiVincenzo. They're starting 2-guard for the whole playoffs. So,
but
and
Saric
also,
got
I feel
injured the second game in the finals.
Yeah.
I can tell you.
Also, I don't want to confuse with the usage rate, and I don't want to compare that to efficiency, because someone can have a lot of usage, but it's also can be translated into touches, right? So they can get those little hockey assists, and also possession off of rebounds and through possessions of plays and everything like that. So his Vucevic, for his usage rate, what was it again, Chris?
Minutes per game. That's what I was going off of.
Oh, okay.
So I got you for usage rate. It goes last year at the end of the Chicago Bulls, he was at 28.2. This year he's at 23.5.
So it's down. It's down a little bit, but he's taking 3 less shots. Also because he's literally the third option at the moment, right? For people who's averaging 25 plus a game. So I'd give him some slack, right? He's just been missing easy ones, just bunnies, right? But it's also him moving on to a different position. So it's it's obviously going to be kind of that grace period of where, they're going to miss some easy ones because it's the different looks, different kinds of touches they're getting from other people, right? He's not necessarily going to his spots and everything like that. It's the same thing that happens with all these quote unquote big threes, not necessarily the Nets because they're the Nets, but those Miami Heat teams, those I was about to say New York Knicks teams, they suck. The Cavs too. So I'd give Vooch some slack, which I think we all are.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed this YouTube video. The podcast was, definitely very interesting. I think we got some good talks in, good takes in. If there's any other takes you want to see, be sure to drop them down in the comments below. But otherwise, I will see you guys next week. See ya.